T-Force LCS Rundown, episode 34, covering the finals, the end game, the everything that is 2014 in League of Legends. And this week I'm joined by two great guys. I've got Dan Dracos with me.
Hey, everybody.
And I've got Mitch Serial Baux Turner.
Wait, who's the other great guy? Because I know I don't qualify for that.
We still love you, Dan. Mitch, rather. I haven't been
And I'm
I
already
feel
being shut
extra
down.
loved.
Yeah, right.
double love for you, Mitch.
Yeah.
All right. So let's hop right into this. We've come a long way. This show has been all about the 2014 season. It's been our kickoff season. We've seen a lot of changes come. We've had a lot of great shows. And it's all kind of boiled down to this, really. We've still got plenty of content coming out after the fact. We've got expansion tournaments. We've got rumor episodes. We've got all sorts of fun things planned. But really, this is what it all came down to. Samsung White versus Starhorn Royal Club. And I got to say, these games didn't disappoint. Super happy. Obviously, for those of you who have probably seen this by now, this is going to be coming out around Tuesday. Those of you joining us live, I would be blown away if you didn't see any of this, or at least hear what happened. But Samsung White took Royal Club in 4 games. Royal did manage to get 1, which I was super pumped about. And they were just absolutely fantastic games. So let's just dive into this. Let's hop right in. Let's talk about Game 1. Now,
Game 1.
what struck me interesting just starting out was the picks and bans here. Starting out, the whole time, every time we've seen Royal Club play in some of the serious games towards the semifinals and finals, we've seen a ton of Lee Sin bans. But Insect really hasn't been performing that great. He's had a couple of games, but I just don't see why people still ban this out.
I think he's still just the undisputed top jungler. I don't think it's necessarily I think he's the top jungler, obviously by a mile, considering he was banned in I don't know how many games in Worlds, but if it was around 80-90%, I wouldn't be surprised.
But that's just
Hold on.
banning. Are you really going to compare him to Dandy and Dandy's performance?
Oh, there we go. I like that.
Okay,
That's what I
I'm
was
saying
thinking into.
I'm saying he's still just a really really strong jungler, and
yeah.
in a top 3 meta, if you're going to be there's no other lane I feel like that has a top 3 that are so far and above everyone else. You've got the Kha'Zix, the Lee Sin, and now Rengar, especially thanks to Dandy, and we saw that a lot this weekend. But I'm not surprised to see that get taken out. I know Insect's known for his insects, but I don't know what's that surprising. Why is that surprising to you?
Yeah, I agree that the Lee Sin ban is not too surprising. It's like Insect signature champ in general. It's not something you want to give away as a first pick. You're much more comfortable giving away Kha'Zix. Lee Sin pretty much has the strongest level 2 in the game and one of the strongest level 1s. So early fights are just dominated by him. So I get why it's banned, despite all the recent nerfs. I still think it's a super powerful pick, and it makes sense to me. These are pretty much have been the standard bans in the whole tournament. Just because Lee Sin he provides such huge early game pressure, and all these games in Worlds have been pretty much decided on who gets an early game lead, or for most teams, especially if one team is slightly better and the other are slightly more experienced, then they're never going to give up that little lead that they get at the beginning of the game. And they're really, especially White, is really good at snowballing that little lead. So if they give White first pick Lee Sin and Dandy takes it, Dandy's going to be just as good as Insect would be. And no matter who Insect picks, it's not about whether or not he's good at that character, because Lee Sin is so powerful early game that you're pretty much just avoiding him. And that's the best thing you can hope to do, or get a good counter gank, or put him in a poor situation. But the champion Lee Sin pretty much has no counters in the early game.
I guess what just takes me by surprise here is that I guess throughout this whole time, White never underestimated Insect, I guess. And that's something I guess I'm not really used to seeing, is somebody who really does kind of command that level of respect, and teams don't break and just finally give it up. So to see it go through in each game, I mean, it just... I don't know. It struck me odd. It makes sense. It's his number 1 champion. It's what he's known for. He has a move named after him. So you got to give it the respect ban. But to see it never go through, maybe a little disappointing even. just because we didn't actually get to see Insec in his element play that champ.
But I think that's what it comes down to, is that it's like, that is the one champ that Insec is always going to be comfortable with no matter what.
Right.
So if you take that away from him, you force him onto other things, and despite the fact that like he may still be really good at other champions, taking away the one that he is most comfortable with is going to be like crucial to you. And the same thing, I mean, you also see Lucian ban coming out in every game in this series, and that's respect for Uzi and his ability to just stomp with early game aggression, right? Like Lucian's a hyper aggressive early game champion, and they know that if Uzi gets a lead, like the whole game is going to be tough for them. Despite the fact that I think Imp was trolling pretty hard when he said that Uzi was the best AD carry in the world, Uzi is still a threat, and Uzi
absolutely.
can still hard carry a game if you funnel enough farm into him. And
I mean,
like they don't.
You can't really look at any of these games and say that anybody on Starhorn is deficient in any sort of way. They played well. They played very well, I would say, compared to what they were kind of given, especially just to get to where they were. So I don't think it's anything like that. Not at this stage, at least.
Yeah, I'm really impressed that they made it to the finals the second year in a row. I mean, they were I would say ridiculously inconsistent in China and in LPL. So when they played as well as they did in Worlds, I was pretty blown away. And the fact that they made it to finals is really impressive.
Sure. Well, let's actually get into the game. So in game one, we saw some great first blood action right at level 1. We saw a Royal Club essentially just standing on a ward. White goes in for a pincer move. Pawn almost goes down. Pawn on Jace. Pawn on Jace is now my favorite thing in the world.
Oh, yeah. I don't know how they took
It's
him that
just
long to ban it.
destruction. It's fantastic.
And the thing that's always been great is that like everyone in NA has been speculating about like whether or not Jace is good, but the sentiment has always been, if you don't play him perfectly, he's just not a good champion. Well, guess what? Pawn plays him perfectly, and he shit stomps everybody. Like it's just beautiful to watch. But the whole beginning of this game is really cool because if you like really watch the map, you get a sense of how good White is at map control and macro game. Because what you see is right after that first blood, Imp and Mata go up into the top lane, and they have EXP advantage because of First Blood.
Mm-hmm.
So they fast level 2, and then they use the level 2 advantage, knowing that their opponents can engage on them, to fast push the lane, swap lanes, and then while the lane swap is happening, they use the fact that they know where everyone is because the lanes are pushed in to get ward control on the bottom side of the map. From there, they force Royal Club to lane swap again in response to their lane swap. And so now they know that while they're swapping, mid lane is completely undefended, and since they still have ward control on the bottom side of the map, Dandy is able to cut through bottom jungle and tower dive in the mid lane. And like all of this is happening simultaneously, and everyone, like they're moving as a whole. It looks a lot like a StarCraft 2 professional match. Like one person is controlling all of these things. And I mean, not all of the like moments in the game look like this at all, but in that those first 5 minutes, everything just looked executed perfectly. Like
they got huge vision control too, because like I took note at I think 7 minutes in, they all had sweepers by then. Like they were just all about vision denial, and like you're saying, setting up that bottom side of the jungle. And I really like that early play from Dandy to come in. I know Pawn did most of the damage, and Dandy kind of swept in, and it looked kind of like one of those kill steals that you'd get pissed off about in solo queue. But I mean, the early first blood, which we were talking about, went to Dandy and got him Spirit Stone for his first clear. Like he didn't even have to. He had already passed Machete when he went through first clear and was able to get through quickly. And I think that helped a lot for getting him down that follow up kill onto Korn. And they just didn't look back after that that point.
And the thing about it was the buys that they made, they knew they had gold advantage, but rather than buy items, right? Rather than buy items that would definitively put them ahead in team fights, they bought boots of mobility and vision control. So they didn't ever look for a team fight, knowing that like they had basically thrown away their gold advantage on mobility and map advantage. They just made picks, and they just kept making picks. Like the whole game, all they did, they never looked for the full team fight until they were very far ahead. They would just pick 1 or 2 people off, take an objective, and then they would just do that constantly. Like that whole game, they never gave Starhorn a chance.
Right, and Pawn's aggression was just unbelievable. I mean, in the first blood scenario, he barely made it out with his life. The first tower dive up top, he barely made it out again. I mean, it really was the kind of situation where if Royal Club was able to turn it up just a little bit and be able to match their aggression in any way, it could have very quickly turned around and maybe not given the game to Royal Club, but at least put a bit of a halt onto White's, progress. And we saw that really early on in their game against TSM, where the one time that TSM did win, you just kind of have to stick it out to the end game, and you can manage to pull it together. But Pond didn't go down at all. He got super huge and was just taking people out left and right. And I mean, I'd love to go back. I don't think he missed a cue.
It's possible.
It's bombs just everywhere. And I mean, Korn went down so many times under his own tower. It's devastating. I mean, it's almost like White's objective in this wasn't to mechanically beat them in League of Legends. It was to completely demoralize them.
Well, they had the macro. They have macro in every single game especially the ones they win. I know they only lost 2 games total in the entirety of Worlds, but every single time the casters talked about how short their games were. I don't know how many times, but they were always like under 30-minute wins because when they get those early leads, they get those and they snowball them unbelievably quickly with that vision control, which leads to objectives, which leads to the game being over so quickly that you're like, I was amazed watching the final game. I thought, oh, it's going to last a little bit longer than this. And it was over in 22 minutes.
Yeah. Royal held on a lot better than they did.
But that's how
we'll
you beat them is you have to, the only way to beat White is to escape the early game without falling behind a significant amount. And Royal managed it once, TSM managed it once, and no one else did. Everyone got just stomped otherwise.
And I mean, it makes sense because when you look at how confident they are in their play when they're ahead and the way that they utilize gold advantages, there's just no opportunity for anybody to come back. Like, what are you going to do? Wait in a bush and like surprise somebody? No, they have complete vision control. You're not going to out 1v1 them. They have a gold lead anyway. You're not going to like surprise them in any way. Still have vision control. They play really, really smart, and they don't look for engages that are risky. Like, they never risk 1v1s if they don't have to. Like, in the bot lane, the closest thing you saw to that, this is when they're at like 4 kills, and their 5th and 6th kill were from, Imp and Mata going in, because knowing that like they're not going to die because their team is on the way. And of course, Uzi and Zero have to blow summoner spells to get out. But like, it's a pretty even fight. But as they're starting to run, the other 3 members, so full 5 people are headed bottom, and Imp and Mata know this. They know that their team is on the way, and that there's no possible follow-up for Starhorn Royal Club that ends positively for them. And they just pick up another double kill. Yep. Or 2 more kills.
And I think what Royal's initial plan was coming into this was, really expecting that there was going to be a lot of pressure on Uzi and Zero. I mean, we saw Korn in the mid lane pick up a teleport. Cole, obviously, in the top had a teleport. So that kind of gave me the impression that they were expecting a lot of pressure to be put onto Uzi, given that he is, one of their crazier, more well-known more well-known players. Really expecting that pressure and being able to match that with teleports. You make it 2-on-2, we'll make it 4. But then they just attacked the solo lanes instead. And I think it was almost like shock value for Starhorn early on. You have no idea what to do. If you teleport top on a gank on Kola, you're just going to die as well. And they really, bottom lane for that whole game 1 was totally boring. Imp, only had 1 kill. Uzi died twice and got 1 assist, no kills. It was all about the solo laners. I mean, that game 1 ended with Pawn 7-0 and 7, Dandy 5-0 and 9, and Looper 3-0 and 8. I mean, you can't really get any more perfect than that.
Yeah, but I think a lot of that, that was Imp's job. When you look at that game, Motto left bot lane all the time, and all Imp did was sit under tower and freeze because he knew he was safe. Janna Tristana wasn't going to die them. There's just not enough damage there. So he sat there, farmed. He would do damage to late game if it got to that point. And that's the thing. That's the thing that made this matchup really tough for Starhorn is that Imp can play aggressive or he can play safe. He does what is necessary for the team. Uzi only plays aggressive.
Right.
Uzi always wants to be the hard carry, the center of the team, and he tries. You can see it. He tries to calm down and just farm, but it just doesn't work out for him. Whereas Imp can just chill out, and that whole lot of times that has helped the team.
What makes that so dangerous is the fact that even though Imp is playing a little bit passively and he is just sitting down there and farming, as Starhorn you can't ignore him, because if you do, he's just gonna get huge. And as soon as you start to move in the bigger team fights or start to position for Dragon, he's just going to roll out and destroy you because you've left him alone at that point. So what do? You lose. You lose the game in a super quick amount of time and just hope that the next one fares a little bit better.
He's such a ninja on Twitch. Like he comes out
Twitch.
of nowhere
He is Twitch. As a
all the
person,
time.
he is
Yeah.
Twitch.
And I got him. Did you give him 3 games? It was 3 of the games. Yeah, they banned him. I think they banned him in the last game. No, he just didn't pick him. Never mind. But he will always show up at the perfect opportunity, and it's from the angles you don't expect. Like you don't see. I've never seen anyone else play Twitch like him, and he plays him to perfection. And so even in that passive game, if he gets to any point later on, like if that game had lasted longer, game 1, he would have probably been assassinating people all over the place.
Oh God, yeah.
And I mean, you already have so much lockup in an area thanks to the box from Thresh. You've got Jarvan's Cataclysm, and suddenly if you have I don't like Ratatat, but if you have the spray and pray, pretty much just railing anyone in that area, you're done.
No,
I mean, they were already so far behind. That's not really a bold statement, but if that game had gone longer, they had a very good comp to back up the Twitch and just said, well, we're already fed in every other solo lane. Let's just let them carry this game.
And the thing about like the way that Imp plays Twitch and the way I think a lot of Koreans play Twitch is you get this assassin build Twitch where you have the Yomus and the Blade of the Rune King. And like those 2 items, I mean, you can pretty much outduel anyone in the game. Because I mean, if you come out of stealth with ult, you're just doing a ton of damage. You have huge amounts of attack speed. You have, HP shred. You can, like we watched in game 3, just to jump ahead a little bit, like he soloed a Ryze who was super far ahead. Or sorry, not game 3. Game 2.
That was game 4.
Wait.
It was game 2. It was game 2. No,
Game
that
2.
doesn't make sense.
No, game 4.
No,
When did
game
you
3. Game 3. It had to be game 3. It was Twitch versus Ryze, and it's the game that Royal Club ended up winning, but Twitch was still strong enough to pull that off, I think.
Yes, thank you. Okay, but either way, Twitch super far behind. He gets those 2 items. He goes bot lane, just walks into the Ryze, goes off. Stays a little bit out of his range the whole time. Kills him on rotation. Ryze tries to teleport out. I forgot about the mid lane Ryze, so I was tripping up looking at the scoreboards. Like, did that actually happen? And I mean, that build right there is so strong. And like Koreans have used that for a really long time. Even when Twitch was nerfed and we stopped seeing him in NA a lot, like it's been something they've been using over and over again. And you watch Imp just walk into people. He'll use that stealth and he'll stand right on top of you as a ranged character, knowing that you run or you die.
Right.
Like you have no option.
You're not even going to come close to expecting that. I mean, it's the perfect surprise play.
Who expects your AD carry to throw himself into melee range?
Yeah.
Unless you're Ruzi, and then that's what you do on Tristana. You just jump into the fight.
Yeah, he was like unfazed whenever Imp would appear, just like ult him away. Like, yeah, I do it too.
Yep. But I mean, not much else to say about game 1. It was really just a clinic. There was a pretty awesome team fight that started with Mata hooking Red. I mean, this looked like Mata just didn't even care. He hooks Red. There's really no one else around him. As Royal's trying to take Red, comes in, and then the team just pushes him out. And then from there, the game was pretty much over. They were just able to push out towers, walk straight into the base, and do whatever they want. It made me a little sad at first. It's a fun and exciting game to watch, but then you kind of take a step back and you say, this is finals. Like, this is supposed to... excuse me. This is supposed to be the best of the best, and that just happened.
No, the best of the best was semifinals, and White swept those 2.
Right. Either way, we move on to game 2. Very happy in the pick ban phase to see what many teams, I guess, for some crazy strategic reason, didn't decide to do, but Royal Club picked Jace.
The crazy strategic reason is no one but Pawn and Dade in this tournament can play Jace reliably.
They banned it. They just gave it to him. Just like, go ahead, play Jace. Why not?
Well, I mean,
you dominated with him, but just to go ahead and do it again.
Well, they thought Rengar was a more important first pick for White. If you noticed when they're on Red side, they banned it every game along with the Lucian and Lee Sin, and then switched it for Maokai when they were on Blue.
Yeah.
And so they said, all right, Rengar is really important. We know both Insec and Dandy are very good at it. And then Korn said, oh, we just got wrecked by a Jace. I know how to play that champion. No, he got just demolished. And I thought it was it was a smart move to pick up the exhaust that game for Corn, and I'm only noting that because every other game he went teleport, and I don't remember any significant teleport ganks from Corn this entire series.
There was a
despite
bunch
the
where
fact that he,
died.
yeah, but like anything that helped. Like I remember plenty of teleports that were helpful from Looper and Cola.
Yeah.
More so
him.
Looper, but there's never a time that I was like, oh yeah, Corn made a nice teleport gank here. It just didn't happen. And when you have it on 3 out of your 4 games, you'd expect some sort of influence.
I think it's
Yeah.
the way that you theoretically have to beat a team that feels like they're everywhere at once. White goes where they want. They're all
Yeah.
Mundo, essentially. And the only way, because the fact that they're moving around that much, they're dominating your vision. I mean, there was one point, I think it was in game 1, where simultaneously Royal Club put down 3 pinks and instantly White pinged them all. They knew exactly where their vision was. They knew everything that was going on. The only way that you can possibly counter that is by having a highly mobile team, and teleports is one way to give mobility to a mid laner, because you can have that opportunity to possibly turn a gank around.
Well, the big thing that I saw in all of these games was when White was ahead, they would show up with a ton of people to a team fight or to a pick, and I would always be like, damn, that's a good teleport. And then the cast would be like, yeah, he didn't even teleport. I'd be like, what the hell? Like, how are they so good at this map movement? And then Starhorn would teleport. I'm like, why are they teleporting? Like, why do you even take this skill? I mean, I think you're right. I never saw Corn teleport once. I saw him die to Imp. I saw him die in the top lane. I saw Corn die a lot. I saw him die in game 1, saw him die in game 2, even in, like, game 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just...
Yeah,
He went, let's see, game 3.
he was on
Ford
Rise.
ended up going 5-5.
And he did good, don't get me wrong, but his use of teleport was... I was never impressed.
Yeah, but that game too, like it was fairly even for a while, and eventually we had a gigantic fight bottom where they did. I'm sure that there was a teleport from. Oh, never mind, they didn't have teleport, but you had all 10 players down in bot lane. Like I don't remember how early into the game, maybe like 10 minutes in, which is pretty insane to get every single person down there. But Pawn ended up getting there before Corn, so they had an advantage. They ended up winning the fight 5-4. I forget who ended up surviving,
Oh,
but both.
That one was Looper, I think.
I think it was Looper, but they had no, I think actually it was. I don't think it was Looper. I think he ended up dying, but.
No, it was Looper. I 100% remember. Because
Okay.
So this is the one fight where Dandy dies, and he dies because he did not have the half a second necessary to cast Empowered W to
that's
heal.
right.
I was really upset because I'm like, he got it! He calculated perfectly! And then there's like, Mundo turns on the Burning Agony, and Mundo's at like 30 health too, but the one tick of Burning Agony kills him.
Yeah, but that fight ended up getting 3 kills for both top laners, which would normally mean that, okay, both of our top laners are going to carry now. And on Looper, he was on Rumble. That meant a lot. Like, he ended up getting a Liandry super early into the game, and it showed because he made plays all over the map, 7-0 and 10 at the end of the game. But Cola was on Mundo, and he's not going to make quite as much of an early game impact with early items from him. He picked up a Spirit Visage off of it, so it meant that his laning phase was going to go well. But Rumble was going around the map picking up kills, helping his entire team out, and I think that was a big turning point. It looked like it was fairly even, especially since Royal Club picked up a dragon off of it as well after the spawns. But Rumble was just way too strong, and him and Rengar were able to roam and get. I mean, they had so many kills. It was ridiculous.
And that's the thing about the Rumble pick, is you can just turn around a team fight. Like when we saw that bottom team fight where it was like a 5-for-4 in exchange, that Rumble ult hit like 3 people. It took out 3 different people had half their life bar taken out by that ult.
And that max range ult that he did on Imp after he flashed over the blue wall, and he just like throws it down and it catches.
Oh,
it
clipped him
right
on
at the
Uzi?
end.
Yeah,
It
it's
clipped
like-
Uzi on Corki, and just it's unreal. It's unreal how well Looper played. Looper and Dandy alone. It's like Looper and then Dandy Pawn combination is just disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting, the aggression that they can just turn on out of nowhere.
Well, the caster
it's-
said that like he fired that ult. You were saying?
Yep.
That was right before. I think it was right before a team fight started, or kind of in the middle of one. he was able to do that and still crush the rest of the team fight without having the equalizer for the team fight with so many more people. That kind of lead is unbelievable. And to have the balls to say, all right, I don't need this game-changing ultimate for a big fight. That's how much the early game just benefited White. And
it
yeah.
wasn't even like super early because you were right that they were tied and it even looked like Starhorn might take a lead for a little bit there. But then that one fight in the bot lane that we've been just going over again and again literally changed the entire face of the game. Like the second Looper got that lead, the second Dandy got that lead at all, like they were just able to be anywhere and everywhere. And with Dandy fed, he can make picks anytime he wants. And with Looper fed, they're never going to lose a team fight with that Rumble ult. So there's just no way that this team comp is going to lose. Because those two characters alone can start, picks, or they can start team fights. And they don't need anyone else to do that.
Yeah. I mean, it's just game 2, ended up just being not as quickly paced. It was still a fast game. I think, what was the total time on game 2?
29.
29, so still under 30 minutes. 24 on the first game, then 29. Their last game they won was 22. Royal would at least still have the opportunity to surrender. But I remember hearing the casters saying after the end of Game 2 that this could possibly be the fastest finals in League of Legends history because of just the speed of this game. And that, to me, again, was very, very sad because it shouldn't be this unevenly matched. But then we got to Game 3. Any final thoughts on Game 2?
Oh, somebody mentioned this in Twitch chat. The Janna play from Mata. There were a number of ridiculous plays from Janna, and we'll come to that in Game 4 as well because I remember one involving a Pantheon. But
the one where Pawn is diving, I believe it was Korn mid, almost goes down. Insect comes out, smacks him in the face, is like, "How you're gonna die to my?"
The burn, yeah.
And then Mata just comes up. Nope. Howling Gales, Insect. Gives the heal from her ultimate. I forget what that's called.
Monsoon. Well, she Mata flash shielded to make sure that he didn't die, and then followed it up with the Monsoon and everything else.
It was crazy. I mean, that was a huge misplay by Insect, and I think at that point in the game, it wouldn't have made a huge deal, but it kind of just goes to show that when you're a team that doesn't make mistakes, your opponents can't make mistakes like that. I mean, it's little stuff like that kind of contributed to Starhorn's demise here. One thing I loved, just final thoughts on Game 2, I almost forgot to mention it, was that right at that last moment where White could have ended the game, I think Insect popped up, even though they had all 5 in the base, and they decided to leave and teleport top so they didn't lose any towers for that entire game. I mean, in a way, it was almost more of a burn on Royal Club than Game 1 was. Then we got to Game 3.
Oh, Game 3, the savior of making it interesting.
It was an interesting game in and of itself because we saw Singed and we saw Rammus.
We saw Fizz.
Fizz isn't that much of a surprise to me though, because Pawn's crazy with Fizz.
I don't know.
And we finally saw the Jace ban, so that Korn couldn't play it specifically, because they would have had first pick and made sure, no, we don't want that, and we definitely don't want Pawn to have it.
Yeah. This game was upset. This pick ban phase was good on Starhorn Royal Club for banning how they did, and for the order that they made their picks. I think they did a good job. They didn't get baited into anything, and they took the smart champions. Rammus is debatable, but it worked out for them.
Yeah.
But
well, I think they wanted a shock factor champion. I mean, they probably had this in the pocket, and at this point, what do you have to lose? I mean, if you play your standard way, you've already seen in 2 games, that's getting you cleaned up pretty well. You've got to try something crazy, and Rammus was there crazy.
And it worked, but Samsung White picked no wave clear, and the casters talked about this, but in a team that's core strategy for winning in the early game is a small advantage just followed by superior vision control and superior macro strategy, none of that is really possible without wave clear. Because you have to stay in lane to get that XP, and you have to stay in lane to get that money. You have to. And so as a result, they're just forcing themselves into these laning phase, which they never wanted to do in the first place. Their whole goal was to avoid the 2v2 lane, was to avoid these matchups. and you see Fizz in the mid lane who can't really clear a wave at all. You've got like Twitch Thresh, not very good at all, and Singed, who can technically clear a wave, but is just going to sit top lane all day. Is not going to be a very mobile champion, and like maybe that's because the Maokai is taken away and the Alistar is banned that Looper picks up the Singed, but I just was not impressed at all.
Well, they needed Singed to wave clear by proxy farming and just run into the base and take care of the waves before they even show up. That's clearly what they needed to do.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it didn't work out at all.
Well, one thing that was talked about was that Singed was kind of counter pick isn't really the right word for the matchup with Maokai, but it was the idea that you don't have to worry about spells. You can just kind of farm and not let like spells that so that Maokai get his passive off.
Yeah.
And kind of just outlast him in lane. But at the same time, they also weren't able to. If you're going to set up that kind of lane situation, you're not going to get the lane swap that they want. And when you're running Twitch Thresh against Tristana Braum, you really wanted that lane swap. And it was the only time that Uzi ended up just super far ahead of Imp. Like, he was significantly far ahead once, I think, probably on second back. I know it ended up with Triss getting a Shiv before going for Infinity Edge parts besides a pickaxe, but at the same time, she was still so far ahead in gold that it worked out incredibly well.
Yeah. I mean, this game was just kind of... It was Royal really just going completely aggressive throughout the entire map and managed to get a couple of good wins over White in certain situations. They got some good dragons. They got some good catches. They definitely put pressure on Looper and took advantage of having to be playing Singed. And it worked out for them. It worked out for them pretty well.
And
it was also...
I think...
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Damn it.
No,
okay. I was just saying, the Uzi build, like, I think Uzi building... Well, thank you, Mott. Uzi building static ships so early is something we saw a lot in NA for that wave clear, and I think that they saw that Samsung White did not have that wave clear. And they knew they could get superior macro control and superior map control by pushing those lanes really hard. So I really liked, despite the fact that I feel like it made Uzi worse in a dueling situation, like he probably would have lost to Imp who had a Blade of the Rune King completed at that point, the static ship did let him clear waves super quickly and let him rotate a lot more efficiently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I also, Korn ended up getting, another thing Casper's pointed out, Korn got a lot more roams quicker than Pawn did this game, despite the fact that you're on Fizz and can get around the map incredibly quickly. And in the previous two games, Pawn had been beating him to either lane, either top or bottom, and Korn ended up being so far behind that he wasn't able to impact the fights well enough to help Royal Club win them. And in this game, Korn on Rise got to those lanes, got early advantages. I think up top, certain there was a Maokai, which got him that lead that they said, oh, well, if Singed was your counter pick, now Maokai's ahead, and you're pretty screwed. Mm-hmm. And he did work. 7-1 and 10 for Maokai. It was involved in almost all 17 out of 19 kills. He was a monster for that game.
And we just saw, like, when he was so far ahead and he finished that Rod of Ages sooner, we just saw him, like, W in, just twisted advance in, just hit him, Q him, walk away. And it was just so much, because of that percentage health damage, when you're ahead in levels and in farm, just watch Singed get chunked every time. He had to, like, burn his ultimate to stay in lane and sustain against a Maokai, and Maokai's not even a champion that does a ton of damage, but in the battle of tanks, when Maokai's ahead, he's always going to beat that Singed.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, even when White was, able to beat them out, there's a couple of the last fights of the game where White did manage to get a pretty good hop on Royal and actually clear them out. Cole was still walking out of all those team fights because he was just too tanky. I think at one point he had Dandy, and there was somebody else there as well. He had two of White fighting him on their way out, clearing, trying to escape from this fight. Cole was the only one still up at this point. And they had to give up because he was actually starting to kill them. He got huge.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Yeah, even the caster said, yeah, he's going to go down eventually, and he just ended up getting away because he was about to kill Jarvan.
They gave up because
they gave up because he was going to kill Dandy. Like, right, Jarvan was going to fall.
There was a lot of minions in the base at that point, and it wasn't going to go good. It wasn't going to go well for them. But it's still a testament to White's ability. I mean, even being down as hard as they were, especially by comparison to how other games went, Royal still had a really hard time getting into their base and getting work done because White would just hop on them and take advantage of it.
Yeah. Also, Korn on Rise I think for the only time this series, ended up, I don't want to say winning a 1v1 versus Pawn, but versus a Fizz, the fact that they traded 1-for-1 kills and killed each other was impressive because, I mean, the burst damage you can put on for Fizz is insane. And that was that play where there was the double flash right near the turret, where Pawn tried to predict and flash the end of his playful trickster to kill. But I mean, they traded it, but Korn finally showed some presence, finally showed that he had some cojones and picked up a kill onto Pawn by himself.
And I think that's the confidence in the Rise play. Like, that's clearly a champion that he's much more comfortable with. And obviously he's not comfortable on Jace. His performance was
that's an
pretty
understatement.
lackluster. And I mean, I know he's comfortable on Orianna, but this is a significantly more mechanically intensive lane just because Fizz is so aggressive and you need to respond to him. And he has so many ways to dodge your skills and to get out of your range. I was impressed too. I think he played much more confidently in the mid lane this game.
Yeah. He died a lot, and I mean that's the game we were talking about. Twitch ended up getting a solo kill onto Korn, just in the bot lane. He just threw out everything, and Rise fell pretty quickly. But I think if Rise hadn't used his ultimate to farm right beforehand, he might have been able to turn it around. That spell vamp actually gives you quite a bit of health, but I don't know. That was the one really, I think, solid play from White that entire game.
Well, Royal did manage to pull out a win. It wasn't the cleanest win in the world. They did make some kind of big mistakes going through and went maybe a little bit too aggressive. But I think in the position that you're in, being one game away from losing everything, you kind of have to take those risks. And it ended up working out for them. But then we got into Game 4, and Insect goes out and pulls out a Pantheon. And I love it.
Oh,
God.
God.
Love it. Shout out to Declan. Had to be happy about that.
Yeah, big shout out to Claude promoting our stream and promoting Pantheon and competitive play.
And it actually, I was very impressed. Despite everything, Insect's Pantheon play is actually really great. There were a lot of Skyfalls that ended up in, sometimes not always working in their favor, but ended up, being really favorable for them. So for a pick that isn't that common, I think Insect did really well with it.
I think that he did well. I think that his team didn't play well with it or I guess White actually did better at countering it. Because every single time that I don't know if there was a time when the Skyfall came down. I know this is sounding exactly like my criticism of Korn's teleports. Every single time there was a man drop, it got countered. And that may have been because Dandy happened to be in just perfect position almost every time to get those counterings. He knew when they were going to be coming in. Or when Looper would teleport down on Kassadin. And I don't think they won a single fight, even with that ability to get Insect into the back lines immediately.
There was one fight in particular that I took notes on, that it ended up being a 2-for-1, but it's only because Looper kind of roamed down in the bottom and managed to get a double kill. But that was, even at that point, Royal still going a little too heavy on. So I definitely agree with the point of Royal not really playing well with the Pantheon. But I feel like in Insect's hands, he did pretty well with being able to cause the threat, force the fights, and be able to drop in. I mean, obviously it didn't work out for them. They lost Worlds. But I still think that was probably, at this point, a better pick than maybe trying to go back to, in this series at least, a very lackluster
Kha'Zix.
Yeah, Kha'Zix. And obviously he can't get Lee Sin, so no Lee Sin.
I don't know. There was the one that I remember is the Janna. Well, we were talking about earlier, the Janna play, where middle of the Pantheon E. I mean, Pantheon jumped into a lot of tower dives, which is fine because Pantheon gets that passive. He gets the passive reset, blocks a turret shot, and he's fine. But Janna was able to pull off. You know how Janna can pull off tornadoes that can block the Zenith blades. Mata was able to stop the Pantheon jump under turret, and that's a knock-up, completely stopping a stun and getting a ton of free damage onto Pantheon, which, I mean, turned that fight for certain, which was just already probably going to be a not great tower dive, turned it into a disaster for Royal Club. And I think that was maybe one of the first ones. I don't remember if Dandy showed up for that fight, but actually almost had to because he was 100% kill participation for most of the game.
Yeah, he went nuts that game, game 4. It seems like every time he popped his ulti, it meant a kill, going somewhere. But Pawn and Dandy combination is just absolutely crazy. Whenever they go after something, it's beautiful to watch. Really. But like, I remember at this point, watching the game, I was into it, but I was taking notes and kind of looking at other things. We were Bridget and I had our engagement party today, so I was kind of like moving stuff around from that, and then all of a sudden the game was just over, and White wins, and they just destroyed everything, and it seemed it was a 24-minute game,
22
minute game, and it was sad to see it get sent off like that.
Well, the game was kind of even for a little bit, and Jat mentioned that. Oh yeah, well, I think this is going pretty well for Royal Club, but I've seen Dandy do too many things when he gets level 6 on Rengar. And oh my goodness, the number of times he popped his ult, popped Yomu's Ghostblade, and then just jumped onto anybody, usually corner Uzi. They were dead so unbelievably fast that I'm. It's funny to go back and think that Reddit was calling for people to essentially find bugs with Rengar so they wouldn't be played at Worlds and NA would be able to survive. And then this is what happens: is the last series Rengar just dominates both games.
Dandy is just so good at Rengar, and he doesn't fall into the trap that NA Rengars do, where they're just so bad early game. He's just good all the time at Rengar. I never feel like Dandy's not doing something. You could give him any jungler, and I think I would always be impressed.
Yeah.
Shaco. We should do that. We should find some way to make them just play the worst junglers and see how they do.
That's what All Stars is for. Just but when you can make them pick different whatever we want to.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but I mean, what a great display at Worlds. I mean, White really did play out of their minds. Even in the game that they lost, I kind of felt like we still saw some awesome play out of them. And it was really just Royal kind of being possessed by that holy shit we were about to lose spirit that pushed them through. So what I'm excited about is all of my favorite champions were played, so they're all going to get, well, at least some of them are going to get some championship skins.
Well, wait, is one of your favorite champions Janna?
No, I love Jace, and I hope.
Oh, it's gonna be Jace. It's gotta be Jace. It's gonna be. It's gonna be
Jace, Twitch, Rengar, and
Maokai, maybe.
I think it's gonna be whatever he's best known for. But
do they make another Janna skin? Is the question.
Oh God.
Because
they should. I mean, they should. Janna was like the standout from the season. He did. Championship.
Yeah. It was.
There's a Reddit thread going on that I guess it's translated an interview with the team, and Looper wants Kassadin or Singed, Dandy wants Rengar, Juan wants Talon, even though Jace would probably be the one there. Imp wants Twitch, which I don't think is even a question.
No, that's 100%. There's no way it's not Twitch.
The best thing I've seen is Twitch with Imp's little glasses, the little circle rim glasses, and his haircut, and just like that awkward haircut, and just that's it. And then like in the Samsung white shirt, just like trolling around.
That's what they have to do now. And Mono wants Thresh. I think
Thresh is probably more likely, because what is it now? We have Janna for Fnatic. You've got Zyra for SKT, and who was TPA's support?
Wasn't Nunu, was it? No, it was Ezreal Nunu. Yeah.
Was it Nunu?
Yeah, it was Mundo Jungle Shen top. Yeah, Nunu was the top tier Season 2 support.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Oh, God. Look back at that.
Times have changed. Blood Boil, the true OP.
Yeah.
The top Ezreal.
Looper, I feel like, might be Rumble. Looper might end up having...
That would be great.
Because he got banned out and then played... At least he got played one game, banned in game 1. And I think he played him a significant bit this tournament. I don't know where to look for stats, but...
Rumble was huge this tournament, too. So I think that one makes a lot more sense. I mean, Kassadin is like one of those like flex picks that I think they bragged about. Yeah. Maokai, too, was also huge.
Maokai is the Season 4 like top laner,
Yeah.
which could kind of make sense. But and also Rumble just got Super Galaxy, so if they were going for the money grab, I think Maokai might be it. But Rumble,
I honestly don't think they have to worry about which champions they make.
this is
whether or
the
not
only
they make
important thing
money.
they have to discuss. This is what Riot has to figure out right now. They're done with Worlds. Now figure out what the skins are.
Expansion tournaments, whatever. No one cares about that anyway. What skins do we give to these players?
I want to see. There's got to be a place in Riot Studios where they just have buckets with like money filled up into them, and they just have one for each champion, and they just say like, let's see how much money these champions are going to make.
I mean, I don't think it's buckets. It's probably spreadsheets, and it's probably one guy in an office. But I like the buckets idea.
But Worlds is over. That's it.
It is.
We have a whole nother year before we're having the same conversation. Predictions for next year, it's probably going to be a Korean team.
God. I think that this might be the time that the world champion making it to Worlds, or the world champion not making it to Worlds curse is broken, but you would have said the same thing. You would have said the same exact thing last year after SKT stomped through Worlds.
Yeah, I don't know, because White had a lot of problems in their previous runs for Worlds. You heard a lot talked about their aggression and how in the past that hasn't worked in their advantage.
But they had a different team, to be fair. I mean,
Sure.
Dade and Pawn are very different mid laners. They serve very different roles, and like you don't have to build a team around Imp, but you need a team that can work around Imp if necessary. And I don't think Dade was ever a mid laner that could do that. And don't get me wrong, Dade is great on blue. I just don't ever think that he worked quite as well on white.
Right. But yeah, excuse me. It'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. I think next season will put definitely a little bit of focus, not a full amount of focus, on the international scene and what's going on and kind of keeping up with things as the season plays out. This year was very North America, EU focused as we kind of figured things out going on. But now that we've got a good Worlds pool, we've got some experience with it, I think we'll be able to talk, a little bit more intelligently about that going forward. So that'll be exciting to see.
Mott, just real
Yes.
quick, are you proud of TSM for being better than Samsung Blue?
Oh, I'm very proud of TSM and how far they made it. I think they did incredibly well with what they had, but I'm still not convinced that they can. It's at this point, it's like little gates that they have to pass through to earn my respect. Again, now my criticism's going to be, how are they going to handle the spring split again? Are they going to take it seriously? They have a team that's still growing. I mean, how many games did they get in with the roster that they took to Worlds?
I don't know. All right, yeah, I didn't mean to get you on a soapbox there, but I
Well,
should have known when I said those words.
Thing, and that's a good segue. We are going to be the next couple of episodes. We have two things we're looking forward to here in the off season because that's where we are today. So we have the expansion tournament, which is coming up. That starts in mid-November, pours a little bit into December for NA. And then EU picks up. Actually, what are the EU dates? I don't know off the top of my head.
They are right after, like it starts a week after NA.
Okay, perfect. And it's not. I think not all of those are exactly synchronous. Like there's a week of the first round of NA stuff, and then there's like a week gap, and then it picks back up in December. So it'll be awesome. It'll definitely be cool to see. But what has happened in this meantime, in this minutia of all these other games going on, is there have been a ton of roster changes across all the teams, pretty much. Everybody except for Cloud9, who pretty much recently came out and said, we're not changing anything.
High recently came out and said we're not changing anything,
Well,
which
that's
I'm
true,
pretty
but
sure means they're not changing anything, but just to keep it,
Yeah. But the thing is, though, is that at that point, I think High was the only questionable one. So if he's pretty confident nothing's going to change, I don't think we're going to see anything change. But regardless, We are going to have probably next week and the week coming, because there's certainly a lot of information, sort of a rumor roundup episode. We've compiled all of the roster changes, both tentative and actually happening. We're going to be discussing those going forward. So that'll lead us not all the way to the expansion tournament, but we'll at least put a couple weeks of info. Talk with Optimus Tom. He will be back next Sunday to join us there, so we'll be able to get some Worlds perspective as he was working that event. So we'll get to hear some stuff from him, as much as he can tell us at least. And so yeah, it'll be great. So this doesn't feel too sad yet, because we still have like a couple weeks worth of episodes, but we're running down. 2014 is soon to be over for League. On to the next season.
And when the season ends and we truly run things out of talk about, when we run out of things to talk about, Jesus, we'll just start streaming ranked fives, and you'll get to listen to me yell at everybody and ruin friendships, because that's what I do when I play League.
I mean, or we could have another LCS versus T-Force proper match that could actually be streamed properly. Yeah, I mean, some people didn't get to participate in that, but I'm sure you'll be. I think you'll fit right in for yelling at us at least.
Yeah.
Imagine I can do as good a job as Record did at yelling.
It's good.
Tom likes to yell too, so it'll be good.
Tom just likes to yell when he does good things, which was frequently those matches.
Yeah, those are some pretty good ones. I wish there was something that people could go back and watch.
There, you can watch it. You can watch it. It's just not very
put
good.
It out or advertise it because the stream quality isn't good. AKA, we got destroyed. Boom. Call that, Adam. I know you're watching from home. All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining us for the finals recap. If you, for some really stupid reason, haven't watched these games yet, don't just take our word for it. Go watch them. They're all amazing. You can do it in a total of 20 plus 30 plus. Well,
it's
probably
like an hour and a half.
Yeah,
it's
an
like
hour and
it's
a
like
half.
almost 2 hours, probably.
Definitely an hour and a half. And that's no time at all to watch some great League of Legends. So they were up on YouTube. Big props to the Riot production team. Being able to get all this content out almost immediately and up onto YouTube with really high quality. So that's
And they
been
didn't make
awesome.
you watch the rebroadcast either, which is really nice for me. Like, I didn't have to sit there and watch the rebroadcast. They instantly put it out as YouTube videos. Like, if you wanted the Twitch chat experience, you could go on Twitch chat and, try to have a conversation with Twitch chat. But you could just go watch the video again on Twitch, or you could watch it on the YouTube, which I thought was really cool.
I think the community is pretty good about not, like, how to avoid the spoilers if you want to.
LOL event VODs. That's all that I've ever used, and it's been the most helpful subreddit ever for that. No spoilers. Go straight to each game. End picks bans if you want, or game start. This sounds like an advertisement now, but
No, it really is. It's really good. LOL esports is all right, but it's true that LOL event VODs.
it's so easy.
Yeah.
So.
All right, well, this is it for episode 34 of the T-Force LCS Rundown. This week we talked about finals. We got Rumor Roundup coming up next week. We got the expansion tournament later on in November into December. This is Makanorm, and we are signing off. This is the awkwardness, Adam, that we were talking about earlier.
I just gotta talk about
It
things.
says bye. Bye.